If there's one thing that I like, it's getting something almost just as good as an expensive thing but at a way lesser price. And if there's two things I like, it's getting that plus chips. Chips are awesome. Everything's better with chips. And if there's three things I like, it's getting a good thing cheap and chips and playing Mega Bonk on my Mangmi Pocket Max. Speaking of which, the Mangmi Air X came out back in August of last year, and it was a big deal. Not because of what it actually was, it was a pretty standard upper-lower middle-range doodad, sort of similar in quality and performance to a Retroid Pocket 3 Plus kind of thing. However, it was incredible in terms of price to performance. That thing launched at under $100, and for that price, it was a crazy good value. I think it's safe to say that this was very well received by the retro doodad community. So when we heard that Mangmi was making a new thing, with an upgraded chip that plays more stuff, a big 7-inch high refresh rate OLED screen, some unique control stuff, a huge battery, but basically taking the guts of the Retroid Pocket 5 and putting it into the body of an Odin 2 portal like some kind of handheld Frankenstein. I think the general consensus of the community was, yay! But then when we learned when Mangmi was being tight-lipped about the price, we were like, And now I have one, and you want to know what I think. And I will tell you what I think right after I finish my chips. The Mangmi Pocket Max is rocking the Snapdragon 865 chip. That's the same chip that's in the Retroid Pocket 5. We also get 8GB of LPDDR4X RAM and 128GB of internal storage. The screen is 7 inches, 1080p, and OLED, 144Hz refresh rate. That's pretty nice. We also get Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.1, an 8000 mAh battery. It's running Android 13, it weighs 450 grams, and it smells like a retro handheld. It comes in 3 color waves, black and white, and this lovely retro beige model. We won't know what it costs until February 2nd. However, we do know that Mangmi will be doing an early bird discount like they did on the Air X, so we'll have to wait and see about that. I'll make a pinned comment with the final price and the link to where you can pick one up as soon as I can for you. And you're going to want to make sure you're subscribed too, because I'll make a community post when that info is there for me to do that. On the front, we have a left stick in the upper spot and a swappable D-pad in the lower spot. More on that in a bit. And an Android back and home button down here, a screen in the middle, along with front-facing speakers. Wow. Over here, we have some swappable face buttons. More on that in a bit. And a right stick, and this is start and select. Up top, we have bumpers and nice big triggers, and some air vent holes, volume up and down, and power buttons. Underneath, we have the SD card hole and a headphone hole. Nice. And a USB-C hole for charging and connecting stuff and video out. Yeah, this thing does video out. More on that in a bit. Around back, we have some strips of metal or shiny plastic, whatever they are, and some back paddle buttons, and a big old air vent hole here on the back. When I saw the images of the Mangmi Pocket Max and I considered the size of the screen, I was thinking, oh, this is like Mangmi doing the Odin 2 portal thing. Like a big OLED screen and all glass front, and even the shape was sort of portal-ish. However, when I got it in my hands, I realized that this thing is more shaped like the Neo Evo, which I personally preferred to the Odin 2 Portal. That's very good news for this Pocket Max because the Evo was comfy as heck. This thing feels amazing in my hands. I love the size of it. It's nice and big and spacious, especially the controls. I can reach everything without anything feeling cramped. This thing is pretty darn big though. It's even thicker than the Portal because of the ergonomics, so it's not even worth doing a pocket test. Are you sure? I totally don't mind doing a pocket test for you, TechDweeb. Nope, totally not worth it. Oh, okay. In addition to a great hand feel, the controls also feel amazing. These sticks are nice big full-size sticks. These are the same style of sticks that we have on the Neo Evo, with these lovely concave stick caps that feel like big full-sized controller sticks. These are TMR sticks too, so amazing input quality that shouldn't ever be drifting on ya. The bumpers are nice and big and they're actually pretty quiet. Not silent, but they're not like loud, annoying, clicky micro switch style. And the triggers are great too. Nice and big and comfy and great input quality. The face buttons and the D-pad are rubber membrane, and they feel great. No issues with the D-pad, no false diagonals, but it's easy to hit the diagonals when you want to. Great for fighting games, of course. But check this out. Have you ever wished that you could choose between rubber membrane style inputs and clicky micro switch style inputs? No? Oh, well, okay. Good for you. but some people would like to choose probably, and I bet those people will love that these can be swapped out. They give you both styles here, rubber membrane and clicky micro switch, so you can just pull out the one you don't like and pop in the one you do like, or go with one of each if you're a psychopath. I prefer the rubber membrane ones, but it's amazing that they give you the choice. And you know what they say about choices. They say something about them. Probably. The screen though, wow. What an awesome screen. I'm pretty sure this is the same screen that we have on the Portal and the Evo. Depending on what this thing costs, that's either going to be amazing or not amazing. We'll have to wait and see. Why is this screen great though? Well, for starters, it's big. That's what she said. 7 inches. That is such a big, immersive, luxurious experience for anything. Anything you could play on here will be huge. She said that too. It's also OLED, so you get pure dark inky blacks and bright, rich, saturated colors. It's super bright on the high end, so you can easily play this outdoors in the day. I live in Canada and it's minus 20 degrees Celsius, so doing anything outdoors is a fantasy right now. But if you live in places where you can go outside without the sky hurting your face, this would be great for that. And it gets super dim too, so you can play it in the dark and also help scare the monsters away. Finally, about the screen, it's up to 144 Hz refresh rate, but you can set it to 144 or 120 or 90 or 60 Hz. That means a few things. You get silky smooth movements and menus and stuff. You can use black frame insertion for older retro games, which is an effect that sort of mimics the flicker on CRT screens. I personally don't use it, but some people like it, and you can do that here if you want to. You also get high refresh rate smooth gameplay in any games that support it, like Android games and PC games via GameHub. Overall, the screen on this isn't just amazing, it's freaking amazing. Which isn't just awesome, it's freaking awesome. And you're not just gonna click the subscribe button, you're gonna freaking click it. Which makes you freaking awesome. And sound-wise, yeah, it's good. It's loud, it's clear. The shell of the device is big with those ergonomic humps, so the deep bass has a little bit more resonance. And the speakers are front-facing, which is, yeah, that's ideal. More than good enough for watching TechDweeb videos, which, let's be real, is mostly what you'll be doing on here. You can use them to scratch your butt. As for the system, it's a pretty basic build of Android under the hood. However, there's a few special things that Mangmi has done for us. We get some handheld options in the system settings. In here, you can do stuff like change some controller settings and some screen stuff, RBG settings, device spoofing, power mode stuff, updates. They also have built-in emulators, or built-in simulators, as they call it. This is just some pre-installed stuff that you can optionally install when you set up the device, or at any time from the handheld options menu. I personally prefer to set up my own emulators in front end, but this will do it for you if you don't want to have to tinker. Another thing they give us is a game launcher called Game Launcher. Believe it or not, this is for launching your games. This was surprisingly well done. It looks good. When I first started it up, it instantly scanned my entire device for all my games, and it found everything, including all my stuff off my SD card. You can launch your games from here, and they load into Mangmi's emulators. I was honestly impressed at how well this worked. Android devices usually require a lot of tinkering, but for people who don't like to do that, this is super convenient and easy. And finally, we get this kind of quick settings sidebar thing. You can bring this up at any time with a button in the Android quick settings, and this is where you can see performance stuff and like change the power profile mode, fan settings and the refresh rate. There's a controller area with some quick controller settings stuff and a tab with Android system shortcuts. This is honestly really well done. It's not in the way. They don't need to give you a dedicated button or anything. Just bring this up from the quick options, change your settings, and then it's gone when you're done with it. Oh, and I guess it makes sense here to mention that you get video out with this doodad. Plug it into an HDMI dongle or slap it in a dock, and you'll be able to clone the screen and use it as a retro console. It goes up to 1080p 60 Hz over HDMI, by the way. It just worked. No futzing about needed. It's kind of crazy to say, but I think this might be my favorite stock Android system that I've ever used. It's clean and open, no annoying stuff in my way that I don't like, but all the stuff I want is always there to pull up if I need it. I still set this up the way that I like it, with my own emulators and front end because I'm a tech dweeb and that's what tech dweebs do. But if you don't want to have to do it yourself, you can just stick with the plug and play tools that they give you. Good job, Mangmi. You did a good thing. And when it comes to gaming, this is either going to be a crazy impressive thing or a lackluster thing, depending on what they charge for this. It's also not going to be super interesting to talk about because it's the same chip that we got in the Retroid Pocket 5, the Snapdragon 865 chip, and that chip has been benchmarked to death. You can pull up any of the 10,000 videos on the Retroid Pocket 5 game tests to see how they run on this chip. And everything does perform the same here. The synthetic benchmarks are basically the same, almost identical, and from what I can see, the gaming performance is exactly the same too. But we're still going to talk about that stuff anyways because that's kind of what we're here for. Well, that and my sick dance moves, of course. Obviously, you get all the old stuff, no problem at all there. Everything up to and including PS1, N64, Dreamcast, PSP, you can run all that stuff. Even upscale to 1080p. Everything will play perfect with zero performance issues and even at the lowest power profile. You'll be good to go for all that stuff. GameCube and PS2 and 3DS will be mostly fine. You can play almost everything upscale to 2x or even 3x resolution and be good to go. And you can actually play most stuff even on the lowest power profile to save on battery life. You may come across the very top-end hardest games to run that will give you performance issues, even if you up the power profile, so you'll need to lower the resolution and maybe tweak some settings and emulators to get those games working. But that's pretty rare. Most of that stuff will work without any tinkering needed. The two things that will probably give you performance issues are Switch and Steam games. For Switch, you can play a frickin' ton of stuff, and we get access to the Mesa Turnip drivers here on this Snapdragon chip, but we only have 8 gigabytes of RAM here, so don't expect everything to run. Anything that is more demanding will probably give you performance issues. I say Switch on this is like 50% hit or miss. And PC gaming will be a similar story. I used GameHub Lite for all my testing. You'll get some easier to run stuff and a few pretty impressive games, but most of the higher end stuff won't be good. But honestly, I'm totally fine with the performance here because the vast majority of PC games that I would want to run on a mid-range handheld are lower spec indie games. We only get 128 gigabytes of internal storage, and right now in GameHub, you can't use your SD card for PC games. But that's not really a problem if you like indie games because most of those are pretty small in size, and those are the kind of games that run great on here. This is the kind of stuff that's going to take advantage of that 120Hz screen. I made a whole video about turning your retro handheld into a little mini Steam Deck. I think if you wanted to do the same thing here, but now you're on a big high refresh rate OLED screen, that would be an amazing way to play these kind of games. I did it, and I liked it. Playing those kind of games on devices like this, it is such a good way to get through that overflowing Steam backlog. Real quick, let's go over the battery and thermal stuff. The Snapdragon 865 isn't a beast of a chip, which means that we don't have as much heat to manage. At no point did the device feel warm to the touch. The screen stayed cool, and I was honestly impressed at how quiet the fan was, at least on the lower modes. Also, at no point do you really need to go up to the high fan modes. Even when doing the hardest stuff, the low-speed fan profile was enough to keep it cool. But here's the thing. Are you ready for this? I don't think you're ready, but I'm gonna give it to you anyways. The battery on this thing is mind-blowingly good. I had a feeling that the battery was gonna be great here because we have a Snapdragon 865, which isn't super powerful, but it is very efficient. Combine that with an 8,000 milliamp hour battery, and you have a recipe for success. Battery success. The best kind of success. But I was not prepared for how good it would actually be. So on the high end for my test, I ran a PS2 game upscaled to 3x resolution at the max power profile. 25% screen brightness, which is the brightness that I use when playing this inside. And I ran that with the frame limiter disabled, so the device was going all out. And like that, I managed 4 hours and 20 minutes of game time. Pretty freaking impressive, but that's nothing compared to the low-end battery performance. For this test, I ran an NES game at the power save profile, 25% brightness, and I calculated, I kid you not, 50 hours of game time. I ran that test for 2 hours and I only lost 4% battery, which equates to 50 hours if you math it out. I didn't believe my eyes. I didn't believe that was actually possible, so I ran the test a second time, and this time I carefully checked the percentage and I ran the test to drain exactly 3%, and that took an hour and 20 minutes, which equates to over 44 hours. Like, what? I think Mangmi just stumbled upon a cheat code for battery life here. The efficiency of an OLED screen at lower brightness with a lower power, highly efficient chip and a massive 8,000 milliamp hour battery, that's apparently a recipe for a device that lasts days and days on a single charge. So as good as all that stuff I just told you about is, well, we don't know the price. So it's hard to say if it's actually good or not for what you need to spend. But let's make some guesses. If this is $150 or under, like, wow, this could be the best value device ever at that price. If it's like $200, yeah, really good device at a good price. Maybe not the best price to performance, but the big screen and comfy ergonomics probably will make up for it. But at $250, you're competing with the Odin 2 Portal. That just went down in price to $250. So at that price, maybe the Portal is the better choice because you'll get much better performance there. We won't know the price until February 2nd, which is frustratingly close, but not close enough that I wanted to delay this video, so we'll see. Also, they did tell me that they're doing an early bird price thing that they did with their last product, the Air X, so that's neat. In my days with the Mangmi Pocket Max, I kept falling in love with it over again. Every time I grabbed it, I found something else I liked about it. It is a little bit weird in terms of like the shape, the way it looks, and some parts of it feel a smidge on the budget side, but it kept winning me over with the lovely full-size controls, the ergonomics, the battery life, and the screen, of course. Everything looks amazing on here. So I'm honestly excited. I'm excited that it looks like Mangmi has another banger on their hands. They hit the ground running, and now it kind of feels like there's a new contender in the handheld market, which is freaking awesome for us. More competition, which is going to lead to better devices, better price, and most importantly, more choices. The only question that remains is, will you choose to click the subscribe button? I guess we'll never know. Unless you do it and then you tell me in the comments, I guess. That would show me. I definitely look like a dweeb if you did that. I'd also look like a dweeb if I abruptly ended the video here.